kind of Sabbath, that you're well rested, that you're well rested. People are seeming well rested. So, most of us were here last night, not everybody, but you heard my my long presentation, introduction to Will Masters, Esquire. So I know you have that in your brain, all the things he's doing, and so I'm not going to repeat. But I do want to tell you just a little bit about Mary Emeny. She is a co-owner of the Frying Pan Ranch, and that's and it's Potter County, right? So just west of Amarillo, or northwest a bit, an amazing, beautiful place that she is the co-owner with family, and particularly her son, Tim Ingalls, really sort of manages things now with her and others. Mary's grandfather, William Henry Bush, was from New York, born in New York, but then New York State, and then was around Chicago, and came into holdings in the ranch in 1881. And there's a beautiful book of history, and it says that he brought a quiet, unassuming, civic-minded, business-savvy to this large and legendary ranch in the Texas Panhandle. And if we know Mary, she carries, I think, some of those characteristics herself, and it's part of why she has all of our esteem and our love. Mary knew this ranch as a girl, though grew up in Cleveland, I believe, and she's had a career and calling in peace and justice, spending time in both Tanzania and Vietnam with the American Friends Service Committee, or the Quakers, as I was just calling them. Mary's with the Quakers. She's a strong Episcopalian now. I think serves on, are you still on the council or board for the Diocese of Northwest Texas? Yes? Standing committee. And we got to learn over dinner that she was with Thich Nhat Hanh briefly in Paris. You know, she kept saying things over dinner, and we're like, really? Really? So let's all talk to Mary about that later. And the name of a book you said you loved is by Thich Nhat Hanh, or something about ghosts. Oh, but I'll share with everybody. Hungry Ghosts. Dealing with trauma. And now Mary has been in the forefront of regenerative ranching, and I would say she is a champion of soil. She says that it is the basis of all things. So give to you now, Mary Emeny and Will Masters.
That's right, yeah, the bishop. So the bishop asked us to talk, and Mary and I went on a hike 2 weeks ago or whatever, and that was the decision, is we're gonna kind of have a conversation. Although I did put some slides together to try to like kind of set the context and stuff that we can refer to during our conversation. I put these together, she did not. There's some characterizations that, anyway, it's just my words, not hers. They are. Yeah, so the bishop did like such a fantastic job introducing Mary. I said, like, in my head, she's like legitimate and I don't know, like hippie. Like she's fought for justice. She was kind of at all the places. What's up? Louder. Cool. Okay. So Mary has the Frying Pan Ranch. This is on Tecovas Creek at the Frying Pan yesterday. It is unbelievable. It's very large. It's a little over 30,000 acres. She is also a member of, or a board member or something, of the Tecovas Foundation. And the Tecovas Foundation is tremendously influential. They support a lot of our public media. And they funded a project 2 years ago called The Rain We Keep, the quest to rehydrate the plains. Mary is also influential. About 20 years ago, she founded, donated the property and founded Wildcat Bluff Nature Center, which is awesome, and we can talk about that some more. And then about 15 years ago, she founded Mariposa Eco Village, which is a few hundred acres just south of Wildcat Bluff that's really like devoted to sustainable development. And she's going to talk about it in a minute. Me, y'all got my introduction yesterday. And there's like a disclaimer real quick, and that is like both of us are here because we've privileged access to land. Our landscape is privately owned. If we didn't have our privilege, we wouldn't be here. And so there's kind of like an inherent bias there. And also, we're not of the same mind. Like we don't always agree. We don't necessarily see things the same way. And so that's not the problem, though, because we're like aligned and our work is entangled. Cool.
Let me start by explaining how Wildcat Bluff came to be, because some of you were out there yesterday. When Texas created itself, it surveyed everything, divided everything into sections, which is square miles, 640 acres, numbered them all, and the state of Texas kept ownership of every even-numbered section. So if you were, the idea was to entice railroads to come through with eminent domain and to pay for schools. They still say they're paying for schools. I don't believe it. But if you were a rancher, you could fence around everything that you were grazing, but you owed rent to the state for half of it. So over time, there are big fights over that about rent and some crazy old Texas stories about that. The reason we're here is because my grandfather's first father-in-law was a man named Joseph Glidden, who happened to have the patent on barbed wire that fenced the West. And most of our West fence is still original barbed wire from 1880. So he sent his young son-in-law 4 days by train from Chicago, and I'm not sure if it was Dodge City or Springer, and then wagon train to Old Tascosa, which is about 30 miles north of here. This is way before Amarillo was even thought about. The idea was that if he oversaw fencing the ranch, he would get half ownership of it. His father-in-law and his wife, he ended up marrying the boss's daughter, and she died childless, and his father-in-law did too, about 1902-3 in there. And then he married my grandmother. So that's the story of why we're here and why this ranch has been in our family ever since. So over time, people were able to block up areas, and we blocked up west of Bushland, which is 10 miles west of here. We're the first ranch west of town, basically. And but there were still these odd sections. And the Wildcat Bluff section is a particularly beautiful one that was right in the growth pattern. So I'm totally selfish in what I do. If it had been sold, it would have been ruined and I'd never get access to it. So by giving it away, I get to go out there anytime I want to and bring all my friends. So it's totally selfish. But I think what Will said is really important in terms of the future of what we want to do. Having access to beautiful land at an affordable, for everybody is really key. There was a professor at WT who took some high school students out there over spring break just for a week that Will does. I was out of town, I was with my grandkids, but Will helped with that, and they got to know the land over a week, and it was transformative for each of them. One has now become very active around Fermi. One of them has totally changed his thought about who he's going to be a major in high school, in college. Another one found references to his uncle and the whole history of his family through this. So it was really transformative. And so we're really committed to giving kids and giving people access to the land. We're also very committed to working towards, beyond organic, we call restorative agriculture. And that's what we're working on the ranch right now. So.
Awesome. So, like, just some larger kind of context of our region, and can y'all see the state boundaries there? You can kind of see like Texas shape. Oh. These high plains were formed, there's, I guess, the time period I'm talking about, like these alluviums, the stuff that washes down from the Rockies, and that comprises like the Ogallala aquifer system. And it stretches, like this kind of alluvia stretches from the border to Canada, basically, and it's crossed by a number of rivers. You have, God, I wish I could see, like there's the Platte, the Arkansas. So the rivers that are named on the west originate in the Rockies. The rivers on the right originate on the high plains themselves. And that's like an unusual thing. The headwaters generally are like snowmelt, right? But there's all of these different rivers, like the Red River, the Brazos, the Little Smoky Hill, that originate on the high plains themselves. And so it's just, we have this like kind of big context. And the Frying Pan Ranch is on the southern like edge of the Canadian River Valley. And so it's really where like the flat Llano Estacado, like the really flat southern high plains, meet this kind of oversized river valley. And it's beautiful, and there's certain like geology, hydrologically significant geology that's exposed to the surface. And then a lot of the work that we've done, my wife's family has the Kritzer Ranch. It's a similar size, it's been around since 1910. It's on the north side of the Canadian River Valley, and ditto. And so it's just like, we're very privileged to have like deep roots here. And I think we're stuck here, and it's not always like a hopeful place to be stuck here. Mary, could you tell us a bit, and I don't know that she wants to do this, but tell us like a little bit about St. Peter's, like where we were yesterday?
So actually where St. Peter's, where we were yesterday, was on the very eastern corner of the Frying Pan Ranch. So my aunt was Episcopalian, her husband was Catholic, so they, when Amarillo Boulevard went through, they, there was this section just out to the south of it, and so they gave half of it to a Catholic church and half of it for St. Peter's. So that's how that came to be. But there used to be this wonderful house back, what was now be across the street, that I came to as a kid, that my cousin, when she married, they totally changed it. And now it's a housing development as of the last few years, which is sad for some of us, but it's progress, right? It's the way things, it's the way of the world. Yeah.
But is St. Peter's like going to continue to be a church?
No, unfortunately, St. Peter's is going to continue to be a church. Like so many churches, they don't have the population, it's an aging population, and they don't have the population to maintain that facility. So they're in the process of selling that, and they're going to they're rethinking how they're going to, what they're going to do. You can ask Bishop Scott or Father Jared more about that than I know, so if you're curious.
Cool. And that's what, like...
But they were the ones who got the priest that they had for so long was an avid gardener. That garden was started 10 years ago, 15 years ago, when I was a Unitarian. And there was a lady in our church who lived close by and saw that space and said, hey, and the church at that point was interested in the community garden. So we did, and we actually got a grant and put in the water catchment system there and developed it. And then the Square Mile folks came in a few years ago and put in the tunnels. And so it's been this time last year, it was just full of all kinds of things growing. So we're hoping that the people who end up with it will maintain that spirit and that production. Yeah.
Yeah, awesome. That's like St. Peter's is like a real asset to that neighborhood and the community. And I think like we talk about like this eco-region and you know like where we're headed. If our churches aren't healthy, like our network can't be healthy.
Right.
And as great as St. Peter's and that facility is, like it is not going to remain within the Episcopal Church. And so like what are we going to do about these struggling churches? And St. Andrews, my wife was born and raised in St. Andrews. St. Andrews burned down 30 years ago or something. It's been rebuilt, it's beautiful. It has a pretty significant trust that it has been drawing off of for a number of years. Our rector is like fantastic, and we have a whole bunch of there's like a really big clergy. And I really like this church because it's like healthy, it's thriving. There's people, there's weird people, there's rich people, there's poor people. It's really, it's a sanctuary. And Amarillo, we need more.
So we hope you all stay for services tomorrow.
Yeah, and Low Country dinner.
But let's get to talking about rangeland.
Cool. Well, there's a building down there that is part of St. Andrews. It's very expensive, it's underutilized, and so there's another example of like church property that needs to be available to the community. And so like, what does that look like? All right, regenerative ranching. I'm good friends, or I've grown to become friends with Mary's son, Tim. Tim moved back here 10 years ago.
10 years ago. Mm-hmm.
And I associate Tim with a number of changes that have taken place at the Frying Pan Ranch. Would you tell us about it?
So I was privileged to take, you ranchers folks know about holistic management and stuff, the whole idea of rotational grazing. It was very interesting to me that the concept was championed by a man named Alan Savory, who grew up in Rhodesia when it was still Rhodesia on a ranch. And when that changed, he ended up working for game parks, and they kept culling animals and it kept still being overgrazed. And what he realized was that it wasn't the number of animals as much as the length of time they were on the property. So for those of you most of you know grass, but the job of grass is to put up a shoot so it can grab sunlight, so it can grow its roots, so that it can put up more shoots, and it's that process. Well, what's the candy in the field? Of course, it's that young tender grass. So one cow will overgraze pasture because they will always eat the best grass first, right? So what he realized, and what's fascinating to me, I mean, as a kid, I grew up and I could see the damage being done. By the time I was a teenager, it was like, this isn't right. And got to Vietnam in 67, 68 and saw barbed wire everywhere, and it became my enemy. But what I've realized since then was that it was really a step in evolution, because population was growing, and we had to figure out a way we couldn't have, huge herds of herbivores grazing the property. The population couldn't sustain it. So we fenced, created private property, which has its own issues, but now our understanding of how grazing systems worked developed about the same time as the technology that allows it to happen. You can't do it with barbed wire, it's too expensive and too hard to do. But with hot wire and now high tensile wire, you can reconfigure pastures in half an hour, 45 minutes. And now they even have, with ear tags, you can move cattle with an iPad. So the technology co-evolved with our understanding. And I think that that's what's going on is in farming and ranching and all the stuff that you all are doing and that we're trying to do out there. So soil rules, and so what's really interesting is that statistics show that an inch of topsoil can hold 25 to 40,000 gallons of water per acre, okay? That's a lot of water. We know a rancher who has a ranch in Chihuahua that he's had for 20 years. He shows pictures of it at the beginning, and it was full of mesquite. It was sandy. There was almost no grass. He started just this rotational grazing, and now there's an occasional mesquite tree. The grass is up to here, and his cattle are healthy. So just by getting the water, we like hospitality. We like people to stay around, and that's more important than with water than anything else, because that will help build the soil. So what we've done is, for us, water's the limiting factor. The first thing we did, and thank God, the NRCS has gotten the picture. So we got a big what's called an EQIP grant, for those of you who aren't ranching. It's one of the major granting sources through the NRCS to actually put a pipeline from the south end of our ranch, where we are in the Ogallala and have good water, to the north end where it's very sandy and the water is unpotable. So we got first a pipeline through that. It's a 4-inch line, and then we were able to do feeder lines off of that. And since then, we've also developed an actual mobile trough that we can hook into those lines and reconfigure pastures into even smaller things. So we're beginning actually to see, last year was a particularly wet year, so the grass is good, but even with this drought, we have enough grass to last probably another month. If we don't get any rain within the next month, we'll have to start culling. But just with this process, we've been able to increase the stocking density from 600 to 1,100. So just in like 3 years. The other thing that we've been doing is trying to, the headquarters of the Frying Pan Ranch is at a place called Tecovas Creek, which is one of the few springs that's still running. It's an artesian well. It's not nearly as strong as it was even when I moved up here in '78, but it's still flowing. It has been over the last many years, as long as I can remember. We have a pond sort of just south of the headquarters, and then, or east of the headquarters, and then from there it goes into a stream bed and kind of disappears. It comes out in a few places, but it basically has gone underground. And we've built these, those of you who went out to Wildcat Bluff, similar structures to what we saw in the creek there. And we were out there the other day, and there's where one is, there's a pond the size of this area of the church. And all kinds of cattails and green things we've never seen in that area growing just in 1 year. So we're committed to doing more of that and inviting the water to stay longer. And what's happened where people have done this is really interesting, particularly in drought areas, because these provide sanctuaries for plants and phenomenal fire breaks. So it has many purposes. So those are the things we're working on, and we're beginning to see effects. Even on the north end of the ranch, we're beginning to see the mesquite. If you have really healthy soil, mesquite is really interesting. It has its growth nodules are about 4 inches underground. It has roots that can go down 80 feet. But if the water, so that's what they really counts on, and let's say in a dry year, your greenest grass is going to be under the mesquite because it'll pull that water up. But if you have grass that is absorbing that water before it gets down there, the mesquite weakens. We're beginning to see that, we think, at the north end of the ranch. So we're pretty excited about that.
Cool. It is really neat to see, and I'm jealous of the progress that y'all have made, really, because like I'm associated with the ranch, and it's like I don't have agency to change things. Has it been easy to like get these changes to happen?
We've been blessed with kind of my role as steward was for like 30 years, and I really didn't know if my kids were going to be interested in it. And so we pushed it, we tried education, but we had these same two families who we just adored, who had been on the ranch for 60 years, really. And so it was really hard to move them off until we had a really strong way to do that. When Tim said yes, and the family said, yes, we want to keep it intact, and my other two kids are in the East, my nieces are in DC and Cleveland, that yes, we want to keep it intact, this is sacred to us. Then we started really moving it, but it was I kind of did not push it until that point. But now with Tim's energy, and we're still somewhat of a, what can I say, a male chauvinist society. So having a guy in charge helps a lot with just easing the transition, shall we say. But we've been total partners in the process, and he's a lot younger than I am, and he can get out there a lot more easily than I can some days. So So that's been the thing. So we've really been working on it intensively for about 8 years now, and we're seeing some real progress.
And more cows, not
More
fewer.
cattle, more cattle. We think we can get up to 1,500, is the aim.
And 10 years ago, how many were y'all running?
600.
Cool.
4 years ago, 600. 4 years ago, 600.
So the work that we've been doing, we call it landscape rehydration, and the goal is to recover historic groundwater conditions by retaining precipitation and runoff. And the work that we've done so far is kind of building natural infrastructure in dryland streams, like what we saw yesterday at Wildcat Bluff, like what we saw a few days ago at the Frying Pan. We built 500 something structures. It's been really cool. There's a group out of Australia called the Malone Institute, and they've been doing this work for about 20 years. The CEO of the Malone Institute says, in terms of cost effectiveness, it just trumps everything else. We're doing that because it's the low-hanging fruit. It's inexpensive, and we'll talk about it more this afternoon. But yeah, the goal is to kind of turn our watersheds from a source of runoff to a sink. And it's really neat to see this happen on private property. I'm so happy I get to go out. It's so cool to be able to go out to the Frying Pan because it's historically and culturally significant. People have lived in this place for millennia, and you can just kind of feel the history. It is not a place that you can just go to. It's privately owned, it's privately controlled. So are most of the historic and ecologically significant places in the Texas Panhandle. That's why I think Wildcat Bluff is so important, such a gem, in that we can take people out. It's devoted to natural science education, and it's located between Paladura Canyon to our south and the Canadian River to our north. We've had 2,500 students out there or more since I've been out there. These are some really cute pictures of kids just being out there, and I think that is most important. We hiked this stretch. This is where we hiked yesterday, and just it seems to be working. It's so cool to be out there whenever it's raining. I wish we had more rain to see. And it's been great because of the public residents and because kids can go out and see it. And so I think there's a big question that's begged now, and where do we go from here? We had this kind of isolated example, kind of this isolated place that the community can engage with, but it's not enough. And it's not healthy because it's isolated. There's not stuff like this outside of Borger or Dumas or all these other towns that surround Amarillo. Not to mention Lubbock or Midland, and it's just, and so, yeah, how much time do we have? I'll keep going. So, of the successes that you've experienced, what was most essential?
I think two things. First of all, getting people, we're not the cowboys, but having people who do that, who understand what we're trying to do, and working with us. Having NRCS was essential. I mean, it would have been way too expensive to do without it. That they're good partners when they can when it's possible. So that's been key. And the other thing is patience. Anything to do with the land. Okay, anything to do with the land, you have to be patient. So, but we've been amazed at how fast the changes are coming. So I think those three things.
Cool. And we're going to skip to, I think, the last question, or that's what I'd like to do. And it's what is the role of the church, and what do you want to see of the Grasslands Network?
I was thinking about the role of the church last night, and for me, the church is like a community. It's not the essence, but it's the community that can express the essence of what we were all about. And it's the best community I've found to do that, particularly this one. And I've tried several others over the years, but this is the one that works for me. And so I think that just being, as Ash said last night, just being here and listening to each other and supporting each other and building that out is key. And I think we lead by example, and several of you have shown that. What you all are doing in South Dakota is phenomenal. What other people are doing, I think just leading by example. What St. Peter's has done has been a community builder for that whole part of town. What we're trying to do here in various ways is doing the same thing. So I think that anything we can do to lead by example and give each other opportunity to experience the magic, the wonder, the beauty, and the challenge of living in this part of the world. You know, I say one of the reasons we're such a good community is because we're all equal in the wind. You know, it brings people together, and so as Reggie's been saying, everything is good. Everything starts with good, and I just love that. So it's looking for the good that's behind everything that we're trying to do, that everything that we're about. And the more we express that, I mean, we're seeing it here. People come. I think we're what's the word tomorrow? We're 22 people are joining the church tomorrow. And that's, you know, and these are people who were never in this church before. So I think that it's a magnetic force. It's really magnetic. And I think if we can be a continually stronger magnetic force for creating heaven here on earth where it's supposed to be, that's what we need to be doing in all forms.
Cool. And I do, like, I think and hope that, like, this eco-regional organizing will be good for the churches, you know, so like if we start talking about like environmental issues or regenerative ag and, you know, enlivening rural communities, it'll bring some people in. So cool. And then, yeah, I also like a side challenge, like what is the church going to do to help out? Thank you.
Thanks, Eddie.
Thank you, guys. Oh, don't go yet. We're actually going to take just a few questions.
Okay.
Thank you again so much. I know we have one already.
Hi, thank you guys. I actually have a question for each of you. Mary, I was just wondering if you could, I guess my question is, when you put that pipeline through your land,
Yep.
could you explain more about why that was so productive, as in it's because it allowed you to graze the cows in places that otherwise they wouldn't have had water?
Exactly, because the cattle will be attracted to where the water was. So traditionally, if you had a windmill or a small well or whatever, the cattle would just hang out around there and they wouldn't graze the rest of it. So by spreading the water out, in the north end, we could never graze many because the water was so bad. So it was, we call it jippy. There's a lot of gypsum in it. It's very salty and it's not potable. So by getting the pipeline there, we could get good water, and then by being able to spread it out in different places, we can get what you want is a herd, a massive herd of animals into smaller spaces. And by having these water sources in various places, it means that we can herd the cattle together and have them have a heavy impact for a short period of time, and then move them to another place, into another place, into another place. So that's the reason. Does that make sense? Yeah.
So I just had one more question for
Will?
Will. With the landscape rehydration, in a way, is what you guys are doing as humans what beavers do in ecosystems? And could you like just speak a little, because I know there's a lot coming up about beavers right now and what they did for North America before they were kind of exterminated, and I wondered if you could speak about that a little bit.
We're actually hoping that we can get a beaver out at Tacobas Creek. There's restrictions about it, and you have to. I mean, we have some really beautiful trees. We don't want them cutting down, so you have to think about that as well. So there's ways to manage that, but beavers rock. I mean, they're amazing.
Yeah, I think like one of our objectives would be to like recover the capacity for beaver or other natural processes to function.
To function, yeah.
Yeah, and so it's really about like recovering healthy function for our wetlands and our watersheds. And that includes beaver, if we can get that far.
Beaver have to have at least 3 feet of depth to feel safe enough to come. So without that, and they won't be there. So it's getting to that point where they have that space. Good question. Thank you.
Thank y'all. I'm one of those 22 people that are joining the church, so I appreciate y'all being here and putting this on. It's not about me. I just wanted to say, yes, I think there's some of that magnetism, and I think it's great to see the church taking an active role in us being stewards. For better or for worse, I'm a capitalist, so I think it's for better, but we live in a capitalist world, and I wonder the success you've had in just making your land more efficient. Not only better for the environment, but more efficient. Are you able to share that? Obviously, you've got a connection with the Kritzer Ranch also, and the Frying Pan Ranch. Mary's very humble. That is a legendary ranch in this part of the world. But that is phenomenal success, too, in increasing the herd, which is at record lows.
Yeah.
Is there a way to share that with other ranchers to where they can say, hey, this is worth the capital to put in a pipeline?
This ties right back to what the church can do. Our capitalist system is based on the theory of scarcity. The church is based on abundance. The abundance is always there, if you know how to see it and to encourage it. So that's what and I think that's what the abundance of the Holy Spirit, it's always there. And it's not a thing, it's a process. I actually like the word Allah better than God because it's a breath word. You know, God is like, and Allah breathes. And, you know, I think our job as the church is to breathe the spirit of abundance into the society. I think it's one of our tasks. Yeah.
But have you been able with other private ranchers to
But yes,
say,
actually,
hey,
but yeah, we have been able to, and there's expense up front, but also, I mean, people who are doing regenerative agriculture are finding the same thing. You know, if you work with the natural processes and you have in your packet a little thing of sort of principles of holistic systems thinking, and natural systems thinking, if you work with them, then they're just going to expand, you know?
Great. Thank you.
Thanks
We've
for the
got
question.
one more question.
So I have kind of a two-part interrelated question kind of about
Would you
that.
come up a little closer? I'm having a
Yes,
hard
so
time
sorry.
hearing.
I kind of have a two-part interrelated question about the rehydration thing you're doing. The first thing is you mentioned you were drawing on the Ogallala, and I know across the entire plains the Ogallala is like always something stressing ranchers out. So have you guys seen like whether or not how much you're drawing, how that's like playing into the current Ogallala system? And the second question was you mentioned that you're having plant regrowth, and my question was, is it specific plant communities or is it you seeing kind of a diversity of plant communities?
Thank you for the question. The Ogallala, our ranch is the very southern end of it is in the Ogallala. You get north of that and we're off of it. So we're basically, okay, so one of the other cool things that we got to do a couple of weeks ago, there's a city park here that is overrun with prairie dogs, okay? And so the city wanted to poison them. Well, we have a B team baseball team, and they always give them these crazy names. So ours is called the Sod Poodles. So the Sod Poodles. They got huge blowback. I mean, that's our mascot. That's how you can't poison these things. So somebody put up a grant to get these guys get them moved. So my daughter and my youngest grandchild were here when they were doing this, and we went out and watched them do it. And they had a big fire hose off a fire truck or off of a water truck, just gushing water down into these holes. And these guys are amazing. You must be used to it because it was 10 minutes before a little head would pop up. And then you grab them. And they took, those of you who went to Wildcat Bluff, you saw the wildlife rehab places. They took them all back there, got them all checked out. Not one of them had any water in their lungs. So they'd been holding their breath for that length of time. So they're used to having water. So then the next day we got to go, we have an abandoned prairie dog town out on our ranch. And so we got to go and put the prairie dogs in new homes. But what was fascinating, I mean, that has to be one of the recharge systems for the aquifer. Because you get all that water down there, it doesn't evaporate, you know? So everything has its purpose. So I think that's part of what and that's in the Ogallala. So and the prairie dogs, you get north of the Ogallala, they're not there. They're all up here on the plains. And those of you who went to see the Playa Classroom, that's the other big recharge system for here, for this part of the thing. So that's what. And then what was I forget what the other question was. Plant community. The main thing that we saw, the main thing when we went out the other day, it was amazing. We could not see that structure that had been built because it was totally covered with cattails. It was totally. We have cattails right up by the headwaters, but we'd never seen them down there. And then there were other plants coming in too. There's some duckweed in the pond, some other stuff that came in. So it's a growing diversity community. Thank you.
Just to add on that a little bit, like if the channel's bare, if the creek's bare, like a gully, we just want any vegetation at all. I mean, weeds are great, whatever. Over the long run, we want to see willows, cottonwoods. Like that's really a big indicator of success.
Yeah.
Is
but those are indigenous. We do have those down there.
Okay, well, we'll do one last one.
What I found is that what a lot of people call weeds
No.
are really nutritional or medicinal plants.
Yes.
So when I first became a master gardener, one of our first lessons is, the question was, what is a weed? And the answer is, a weed is a flower that's growing where you don't want it.
Exactly.
So what I found is what a lot of people call weeds is what we really should be eating or using.
Exactly.
So has there been research done to find out what those weeds are and if they're things that can be useful?
Yes, there's quite a bit, and they're not just that. They also have a role in soil restoration. So, anybody here not know what a goat head is? Goat heads are you hate them if you're around here because they get in your socks and they're stickers and whatever. But there's what we call pioneer plants. Okay, so the thing about a goat head is that it will put down, and it only grows in bare soil. It only grows in dead soil. And so it will put down a single taproot, which will allow water to penetrate. It spreads out to an area up to this big with these horrible stickers that get in your thing so nobody will eat it. And then as the water gets in there and the soil changes, it disappears. We have some in our driveway. We had hundreds in our driveway, and now the buffalo grass is taking over, and there's only a few. So each has a succession plant, a succession process, as well as medicinal and food value. They have their successional value to what they're doing, what they're doing as well. So, I talk about we talk about the prickly pioneers. The pioneer species are generally prickly. I mean, who came west first? The hunters and the renegades and then they brought the women, and then they brought the churches and whatever. So it's a succession thing. So one of the jobs of the church is to be a prickly pioneer in terms of pushing issues, right? pushing the right use of resources and pushing that stuff. We can do it with love, but sometimes you have to be prickly to do it.
The plan I had in mind whenever I said weed is kochia. It's a non-native invasive, and it drives me nuts because it takes over. But that is a really interesting comment.
Yeah.
And then another, a lot of our water conservation money goes to spray herbicides to kill certain perennials. There's the salt cedar, which is another non-native invasive, and that one, I don't know. I still don't like that one. But another one that's targeted a lot is the mesquite. And the mesquite, it's a legume, and so it kind of builds soil. It also grows very high protein bean. And so in some years, the mesquite produced a tremendous amount of protein, that's all over the countryside, and most of it kind of falls off and is eaten by wildlife or goes to waste.
Which also balances blood sugar, interestingly enough. That and yucca, that and prickly pear, balance blood sugar.
Yeah, so I think recovering those connections where we recognize this plant as food, material, and medicine is tremendous. But how do we do that when our people don't have a place to go.
To experience it, yeah.
That's great. Thank you guys both so much again for sharing your wisdom with us. I know we've cut into your break quite a bit, so I do apologize. But we're going to try to meet back in here at 10:30. We're going to break out into some groups, but we'll give you the lowdown on that when you return. There are some clementines and some bananas in the parish hall. Use the restroom, get more coffee if you need it, and then try to be back here by 10:30. Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
One thing I wanted to ask you is how as a rancher you feel about vegetarians, because I'm a vegetarian.
I feel fine.
I mean, and I feel that now that we have plant-based alternatives which are quite good, that maybe we don't need to be eating as much meat as we do.
I agree. But I think the prairie systems and huge herds of herbivores co-evolve all around the planet. All around the planet. I was a vegetarian for many years as well. And then I realized, first of all, my body needed more protein than I was getting. But they're all gifts, in the Bible, it's the way we treat the animals, because everything's going to die. They're including us. And if we're food for the soil, then we're feeding the plants, right? So it's a cyclical thing. And I totally honor vegetarians. What we're dealing with, though, is how do you regenerate the soil? You use animals as your partners in doing that, and then also providing food for people who need that desperately. So I'm totally against feedlots and all that.
Oh yeah. Well, we haven't even talked about
That stuff, yeah, we haven't even gone in there, but that's, I mean, totally against that kind of industrialization.
Because we're from Iowa, and
Sure.
the way they treat pigs there.
Oh, I know,
It's
and here
horrible.
too, and cattle here, I mean, the industrialization of agriculture is yeah. Wes Jackson, we read something of his this morning, he said that tractors have done more damage to the planet than automobiles ever. So it's the industrialization of stuff and thinking that we can outsmart God and outsmart the way things are supposed to work.
And there are alternatives to the Amish.
Oh, well, heavens yes. Heavens yes. Exactly. We all know that.
Thank you.
Thank you. No, but
I wanted to thank you for your work with the American Friends Service. I was a conscientious objector during Vietnam.
Were you?
Yeah.
Oh, wow. That's great.
I was all alone with that at the time. But yeah, well, thank you.
Okay.
You are fully. I'm not smart enough to turn this off. I think.
Hello?
Well, welcome back. Welcome back, everyone. I think most everybody's, I don't know, do we have any stragglers out there? I think most everybody's here. Maybe Will will go since this is his home. He's going to go look. One of the most important things is the building of this community. Really, a goal for us is you all have holy callings to the whole creation. And we're about building a holy community of people, you know, who have that kind of particular charism, insight, calling. So we're going to get into some groups, and you all talked a little bit about a central passion. We understand that nature, food, climate, and faith are all interwoven, right? They're all in this dynamic. And maybe a good way, it just came to me, a good way to talk about it might be your priority entry point right into that interwoven fabric. But so I prayed over your names, and as you know, I think I have almost everybody down. If there's anybody that I have not assigned to a group, just come see me after. But I think I'm gonna get us. And so group number 1. So you're just gonna remember your number. I have Charles from Iowa, Tracy from Colorado, Karen from Kansas, Sage from Texas, Solveig from North Dakota. I don't think Eduardo is not with us today, is he? Or Jerry Stein, or do we have either Eduardo or Jerry with us today? Okay. Jerry might be coming later. Okay, so you all are group number 1, okay? And I think we thought of a few places. How cold is it out there? It's not too bad? Okay, and you are sort of the climate group, so you're going to be out in the fresh air looking up at the sky. We'll send you to those tables out there, okay? And I just realized I forgot what Bob wanted, but okay. Group number 2, whom I have is Mary Emony, so Mary from Texas, Chase from Montana, Chris from Nebraska, Virginia from Wyoming. Is Virginia here? There she is. That okay? Mary Johnson, so Mary, North Dakota. Scott, the bishop. Michaela and Todd. Okay, that's group number 2. That seemed kind of big, but all right. Number 3, I have Kathleen, Frank, Iowa, Donovan. Is Donovan Johnson here? No. Okay. James, Colorado, Will, Texas, Tom, Texas, and Jerry, Texas. Then that's number 3. Group number 4, I have Katie. Oh no, Katie's with number 2. Sorry, you're number 2. Number 4, I have Reggie, Chris H, Ashley. Is Ashley here this morning? Ashley's here. Maria and Hampton. And then number 5, I have Christina, David, Donovan Lawrence, Michael, Tammy, Teresa, Maddie, and Ash. Whose names did I not call? That's right, you too. Signed in. One more time. What was your choice? Okay, so you're group 1. And food, larger or smaller, like little gardens or farming? You get to choose. Okay, so you are with group number 5. Okay, so we know one's going out there. Let's try to put group number 2 back in the choir. Okay, group 2 will follow Mary to the parish hall because she knows where that is. Okay. Okay, so group 2 and 3 will go to the parish hall. And let's put group number 4 over by Hampton, since he's in group 4, if that's okay, number 4. You guys are food, justice, and slightly larger properties. It's kind of my thinking. And if people want to shift groups, it's okay. It's like community building. So that's number 4. And let's do number 5 maybe back in the choir loft, because you can kind of move around. Number 5 is more like slightly smaller food and food justice. Does that work for you? Okay. And more urban, slightly more urban. And Teresa can go. I had you with 5, if that's good. Okay. I just